Hello, adventurers! Today we finally finish our coverage of Empty Black Games 50 D&D Tips for Dungeon Masters blog post with part 5 of 5. Make sure you check out the first 4 parts in earlier episodes. If you're listening to the audio-only podcast, I'd like to invite you to check us out on YouTube. Use the link curmudgeonsanddragons.com/YouTube. You can see our gorgeous faces. Let us know what you think of that format and if we should continue to do it. And last, before we get in, I just want to make a quick ask to consider going to curmudgeonsanddragons.com and clicking the little yellow Buy Me a Coffee button in the bottom left corner. The show is a blast, but it's a ton of work to make. I'm not even worried too much about putting any money in my pocket, but the cost of advertising a podcast to reach and retain new listeners is a lot. If you're enjoying what we do and want to help us reach new audiences, please consider dropping a few dollars into the Buy Me a Coffee link. So let's wrap this thing up and start looking for a new post I can milk for 5 episodes worth of content. Everybody roll initiative.
Sometimes talking with friends feels like role-playing. Sometimes it feels like combat. Join us at the round table and roll initiative. This is Curmudgeons and Dragons.
Hello, adventurers! My name is Jason Fortizo. Welcome to Curmudgeons and Dragons. Today on the show, we got everybody. We haven't had everybody in a while.
Full house. Yeah.
Everybody's been away. They've been sick.
All my bitches here.
So let's just go down the line. I got Miss Josie Diaz here.
Hello.
Jim Crocker's here.
Yeah, I wanted to do this badly enough. I'm doing it from my vacation location. So, yeah.
Good. From the magic of the internet,
Mm-hmm.
it's like instead of you being at your house and not in a recording studio with us, you're at someone else's house and not in a recording studio with us.
True. Yeah.
So as far as we're concerned, there's no fucking difference.
This is my friend.
Except you're slightly more comfortable.
It's also my friend with money, so he's got a better microphone than I do. So that's not
Ooh.
bad.
Ooh. I was going to say, it is a little bit different for us because there's different things in the background for you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you are wearing a more vacation-y shirt than usual.
Yes.
It
yeah,
is very
This
festive.
is my I don't have like a nerd T-shirt on. I have my going out in the world shirt on. So yeah.
Oh, I'm still just in my work uniform.
For those of you who are listening on the podcast and being like, why are you talking about each other's shirts when I can't see you? Head on over to curmudgeonsanddragons.com/YouTube. Give us a follow on there because we are doing video with the main episodes now. The Wednesday episodes are going to be with video. We'll talk about maybe doing video on the Friday episodes too, but they're a lot of work.
That means I have to get dressed for all of these. Please don't do that to me.
God forbid. Greg Genovas is here as well. Speaking of not being dressed.
Finally free from Jason's basement.
Yes. Yeah, you were there for like a while.
A lot longer than I planned to, for sure.
Sometimes you just get trapped in somebody's crawl space. It's fine.
But my cable is working a lot better now, so thank you.
Can't
You know
imagine
what?
That is.
A lot less bandwidth going on.
So before we get into the episode, I do want to give some shout outs. We've been getting a little bit of comments on the YouTube channel, not a whole lot, but I will absolutely take quality over quantity, and we're sure as shit not getting quantity, but we are getting some quality comments on there. So if, I do want to give a shout out to YouTube user Aurelian. This is the OP from the VR chat, Wholesome Story.
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you so much for explaining.
And by
what
found the show,
VR is.
If I find the show, I think I might have commented on the post and said, "Hey, check out our podcast." But either way, he got there and offered some insight on exactly what was going on because we were not 100% clear on our read.
Spill those beans.
So the comment says, and I'll just read it verbatim. Hey, my story actually made it in. To answer some of your questions, VR chat lets you upload basically whatever you want as long as you can use Unity. So it can be a blank white room or it can be an actual 1-to-1 scale dungeon. The world I was in, that's what the chat rooms are called, worlds, had a table in it with a bunch of minis to choose from and move around and stuff. When I said there were pre-gens on a shelf, I meant that literally. I walked over to a shelf, grabbed a sheet labeled Half-Elf Cleric, and sat down at the table with the mini I chose. The table had a grid, the DM could draw on it, but it also had several standing settings. The table had a grid the DM could draw on, but it also had several standard settings like a tavern and stuff. And yes, you can absolutely host a podcast in VR chat. Several people already do, which means I'm behind the curve on this one.
We can't all be super cool all the time.
Yeah, they wanted to invite me to jump on VR chat with them so they can show me around, and I'm absolutely taking them up on it. Gave them our email and hopefully we'll have a follow-up episode where I get the VR chat with one of our listeners. So big thanks to Aurelian for that. And thanks for listening. For today's episode, this is going to be part 5 of 5 of the top 50 tips for DM for DMs.
It took a hot minute, but we made it there.
Listen, we got 5. We squeezed this blog post for 5 months of content. Okay, so
we are in the home stretch.
To be fair, I don't have the attention span to do a listicle of 50 things all in one go. I am simply too stupid.
Oh, same hat. I do not either.
Now, also, this could have been like 40 tops, but like we'll get to that in a second. If you don't know what we're talking about, if you're first time listening to this, check out episode numbers 43, 48, 56, and 61 were the first 4 parts of this series. Go to curmudgeonsanddragons.com/ and then just put in the episode number and you'll go right to it. So with that out of the way, you all ready to wrap this thing up?
Yeah, let's do it.
I was born ready.
All right, the link is in the show notes if you want to read along. This is credit to MT Black Games. Number 41. Ask one of your players to track the damage inflicted on monsters for you.
Meh.
I think it's funny.
Yeah, it was a solid.
I'm not into.
Yeah.
Needless delegation.
Well, let's take this from the worst possible way of doing this is to say, hey, that wolf has 11 HP. You mind just keeping track of the of that for me? And then now they have information they shouldn't have.
Yeah, for sure.
The slightly less bad way of doing this is, hey, start counting up the damage, and then you just let them know when it's dead. Which I guess isn't that bad.
It's less bad for sure.
It's less
DM,
bad, but
that's
it's
your
still,
job.
yeah. The DM, you wear a lot of hats, but it kind of takes that person out of the
immersion.
It takes them out of that encounter.
They got their own
because
job.
They have to do something out of character.
And Bean Counter is a hat that you deserve to wear as a DM. I'm sorry, like that's just your job.
Get your abacus out, slide them little beads around. You can do it. I believe in you.
I mean, and there's 2 other things which come into play for me here, which is that if you are ever of a mind to like fudge the hit points, you can kind of do that if they're counting up. But if like the first 3 wolves all had 15 hit points, and then you decide that the 4th one's going to go down with only 12, then you've kind of,
right.
You've overplayed your hand there.
We all know now.
Exactly, by letting them say what's going on.
That player gets a crit and then just rolls bad, but you think they really deserve to get that kill. I mean,
it's the last wolf. That's fine.
You deserve to be able to lie to your players.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I understand the benefit of this. Like, what does this do for you as the DM to give this to one of the players?
DM's got 1,000 other things to do, so I get offloading some of the menial stuff there.
But this doesn't save you any time or anything, because instead of just like glancing down and seeing, oh, okay, you've done this much damage, you have to go out your way to ask the player.
I think there's a less bad version of this rule that I think we might be able to agree on, and that is not specifically this task, but I think it should be errated to don't be afraid to ask one of your players to keep track of something for you or to do some menial task for you. Don't be afraid to offload something menial. It has to be menial.
And
it can even be something that you can still do in character. Like, I think maybe like, if it's maybe keep track of our food rations for us. Like,
here's where I'm coming at it from a DM standpoint, where it's like, if one of my players started doing this without me asking them, I would not be happy with that. That it doesn't sit right. But if someone took the initiative to, like Josie said, to track rations or anything, that's like responsible party management.
I think the ration tracking thing, that's players' responsibility anyway. So
yeah.
To my mind,
like counting the arrows and stuff, it's like I might have infinity arrows, or I might have 20 that I have to keep counting out.
Well, you got to be able to trust your players to keep track of their own inventory, and that's a whole other can of worms that we're not getting into on this episode.
I'm too stupid, Jason.
I'm only going to bother if it saves me time. Like handling time or processing time somehow. And the thing that seems to me here is if you have somebody else keeping track of the monster hit points, you're not writing them down, but you are still going, oh, wait, how much damage have you done to the dragon? 27? Okay, let me then figure out what this means tactically
how does
for
it
where
save
they're at
any
and stuff.
time?
It saves no time. What does save time
It just creates different.
is some of the literally menial stuff. Like years ago, I stopped moving my own miniatures. Especially if you've got a screen and then they're on the other side of it, I just say, hey, somebody move the dragon to square, D3. And like that's a thing you can offload that like you're not taking any agency away from anybody, you're not taking any autonomy, you're not giving anything away, but you are just like, I don't have to stop, reach over the screen, move a mini. That's the kind of menial
I was gonna say that saves
that I like
time.
to hand off. Exactly, yeah.
That
How do you
saves
feel
you from
about
the opportunity to
players-
accidentally knock over the DM screen and expose all of your secrets.
You will find a single post-it note with a
Just an
rather
inspirational message on
questionable
it.
question. Yeah,
You do just says you're doing great
or
in your
sexy
own
goblin.
handwriting.
Bold of
Who
you to
knows?
assume I can read Greg's handwriting.
Hey, I have half decent handwriting.
Become
How do you
the
feel about
change
players
you wanna
taking
be.
care of things like initiative?
I
How do you feel
mean,
about players taking care of initiative?
like that again is a thing where like initiative, I want some kind of system where it's where everybody can see it all the time.
I was gonna say
and-
everybody should be keeping track of initiative realistically.
Yeah.
Everybody
They
should
should
know
be
when
knowing
they're
when
gonna
their turn
go.
is coming.
But I like my standard setup for D&D is if I've got an encounter, I've got what I need to run the encounter written down on index cards, and then I've got permanent index cards for each of the PCs, and then they tell me what they roll, and I go and I shuffle them all so that they're all in order, and we go whip, whip, whip. I just go through them right like that, and that's the fastest system
Oh,
I've
yeah.
found. I
Yeah.
can't imagine how having players somehow in the middle of that is going to make that any easier or faster for me. So
The DM screen I got from Barnes and Nobles comes with initiative tracker cards where you just, as the players tell you, like you make your little list or whatever, but then you hand them out so everyone knows. They don't have to keep track of the entire thing, but they know I'm number 3, number 2 just went. It is now my turn.
So I'm trying to find something like menial enough to pass along. Exactly.
That
So
depends on the DM and the party.
sure.
get me a
So
beer.
yeah, judgment call on that one.
That
But
is,
no,
or
not
or,
fun,
Yeah.
yeah.
or a soda or whatever it is. What like refill the chip.
A
bowl.
nice warm glass of milk.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right, number 42. If someone is being left out of the game, bring them to the forefront of the action by saying, X, what does your character do?
I mean, that's table
Yeah,
stakes.
I feel like this.
yeah.
Yeah.
That seems like basic. That's any kind of improv. Anybody who's like not participating, you kind of make the game participate with them.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a good rule to have, though, because especially for a lot of new players, it's hard to figure out when you're if there's not initiative where it's set, this is the order in which you will be taking turns doing things. It's hard sometimes to figure out when is an opportunity for you to step in. Or maybe you haven't hashed out your character fully yet. You don't really know how you would interact. And so it kind of makes you step back a little bit. You as the DM should be like, Jason hasn't really said anything in a hot minute, and it looks like he's been preparing to stab this guy for the last 30 seconds. Like, hey Jason, what's up? What are you doing?
No, just sitting here ready to stab this guy,
Yeah. Do you want to do
What
that?
I do, and I've had some limited success with, is I have like a non-combatant initiative where it's just a list of players, and whenever we have downtime, I'll go down that, being like, hey, what do you do? What is your plan for the day? Or how are you spending this downtime? Or if they go interact with an NPC or a group, I can keep track of super softly of okay, everyone has gotten a quote unquote turn in this scene. it definitely helps newer players like feel out of space.
Yeah, and it's good for spotlight hogs too, where you can just
Mhm.
Be like,
call on
okay,
someone
your time
who's
is
not
done
that
now.
person.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
And not even that,
Mhm.
just like you'd be like, okay, Josie, what is your character doing?
Probably
Greg,
wandering off.
we're waiting to see what Josie's doing.
Oh,
And just
Josie and her walks.
I'm gonna be like,
Her walks.
everybody else is doing something. I think I'm gonna go for a walk.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great.
That's how I
storytelling.
got into lots of trouble.
Yeah, no, I
You know what?
More than
You know,
a fair
I
share
can,
for sure.
I desperately need, for all of you listeners, I need you to go to the YouTube and watch Greg's face when I mention how I would wander off. It's incredible. It really brightens my day to know that I live in his mind rent-free.
Oh, rent free always.
that is curmudgeondragons.com/YouTube. You know, there's something to be said though about like I was gonna make fun of you for like taking a walk in a fantasy game where it's like, oh yeah, it's great storytelling. But the Lord of the Rings is 3 giant books about people taking a walk. So like,
Mhm. Yep.
and it's
I
a
definitely
staple.
got us some interesting situations to roleplay through.
You definitely did. It wasn't uneventful. I'll say that.
All right, number 43, and I feel like we've kind of done this one already. Don't argue about the rules with the players during the game. Make a ruling and move on, but let the players know you can discuss it offline.
Yeah.
And we've absolutely discussed this one twice already.
Yeah, as
Yeah.
a corollary for other tips they've given above. Yeah.
Right. Go back and check out the other episodes. But I think the important distinction in this version of the same wording is let the players know you can discuss it offline.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to come with the inevitability that you're going to make a mistake in the rules.
Yep.
It's going to
Even
happen.
if you don't make a mistake, your player just might want to do something that's not rules as written, and that is something that they can talk to you about.
Or if they
And
were
I
trying
think-
if they were trying to do something that you can't figure out a rules way of letting work, and then you can
Yeah.
discuss later how can we do this within the rules.
Mhm.
There's a
I think
couple
it
different
gives the
ways we
players
can-
the opportunity to, if they disagree with it, it's like, you don't have to stop everything right in this moment. We can go back and talk about this, especially because if it's something that you would potentially get heated about, it'll give you time, like an hour or whatever, to be like, okay,
Yeah, but right now
like,
this
I'm
is how
going
it's
to
going to
write
work.
this down, that this is something I would like to go back to once
Put
we
a
finish
pin
the
in it.
session. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't
And
be afraid to put a pin in it.
And I definitely don't remember, even after many years of DMing, like which rules are like in the main book, which are optional, which are from Unearthed Arcana, which are from a third party supplement that I like allowed in one game, but I'm not allowing in this game and stuff like that. So
For
just
sure.
like
It's
yeah,
okay
make
to
the ruling
sometimes
and then
just fly by the seat of your pants.
yeah, and that's okay too.
A house rule that was in another friend's game.
Right.
Mhm.
I had a player. We were doing a one shot at my house this past weekend, and I had 3 first-time players.
Nice.
And one player who's played a whole bunch, but not a whole lot of 5e.
Mm.
A lot of 3.5, a lot of 4, and a lot of Pathfinder too. And some 5e, but not a whole lot. He admits it's not his favorite. So there was a couple of rule things that came up that if we were doing 4 or 3.5 would have been absolutely correct, and he would have been completely right. But we were playing 5e, and I'm like, I'm fairly certain in the one module that I know this rule.
Was
I
it
get
a surprise round?
I get a 5-foot step here.
No,
right?
in fact, we
Yeah.
5-foot step. Yeah, it actually was the 5-foot step rule.
Mhm.
Which unfortunately at the time super mattered, and we kind of had to figure it out right then and there. And I'm like, I'm fairly certain I've never heard this rule before, and it sounds like they just kind of consolidated it with a couple other rules and it became disengage,
Yeah.
which is exactly what happened.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we weren't in a position to where we could have just been like, okay, here's the rule and we got to move. And it was a one shot, so there really was no like talk about
Yeah.
it later.
Mm-hmm.
But examples like that come up where it's like, okay, just do this now, and let's table it for now, and we'll come back.
I think that the other thing I like about this one and the way that it's worded is that it's don't argue with the players about it during the game.
Mhm.
That is also a note to the players that, like, at the end of the day, your DM is God. You don't
Yeah.
get to argue with his physics or her physics or their physics.
While
that
the
is,
game is going on, the DM is infallible.
yes.
For sure.
After the game, super fallible.
Oh, 100%. You could be like, I don't
Super
really like that
fucking
ruling,
fallible.
bitch boy. But in the moment, the character can't just stand there screaming at the sky about, why won't you let me do this?
And this is also your DM tip that's kind of embedded in this. Immediately step in if players start going after each other about what the rules really are.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cut that shit off and just say, here's what it's going to be. We'll settle this after. You guys can have
Yep.
Yeah.
whatever. Players, 10 paces with players' handbooks at dawn or something. But for now, we're just going to get it out of the way.
That's how you get players hitting each other with books.
Damn right it is. It's my
The best-
favorite
I'm
part.
Best
fine
way
with.
to settle a rules fight.
Mhm.
Shot of whiskey and a battle of books.
Number 44. When creating character backstories, ensure every PC has a major relationship with at least one other PC.
I mean,
I think they have some extra strong wording here.
yes.
Yeah.
I like the idea of it, but I don't like how extreme they're going with the phrase, a major relationship.
Yeah, I was gonna say if we just drop the major, that'd be a pretty solid.
I would even
tip.
argue,
That'd
That
be
you
a
could change
suggestion, not
PC.
even like
like when creating character backstories, ensure every PC has a major relationship with at least one other character. So it doesn't necessarily have to be another player character. It can be an NPC. I don't think you have to kind
I
of
Sure.
believe
shoehorn
that was
in.
one of the tips
Yeah,
from
except
the
that-
first or second. one of
Exactly.
these.
Like the NPC thing was its own separate tip before. So
Yeah.
we've got 2
Mhm.
separate tips here.
Yeah.
I always try to make sure that there's every PC is involved in some kind of triangle with another PC. So there's a third character, an NPC that they're both related to that gives them
Mhm.
that gives the DM a hook to pull on with that relationship between those two characters. Because if all they are is like they could be, we're ride or die for each other, but then all you've kind of got is like, well, I threaten that PC like I normally would in the game anyway. I mean, and that's cool that they're ride or die for each other.
Yeah.
But if you've got a table where you've all agreed that you're in a group and you're going to hang together, and that's the premise of the game, like having a third party there that can then, that they each have a different relationship to makes for some that, that's where you get your soap opera from.
I think
Sure.
you could give it the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon treatment, where it's like,
Yeah.
my mother was a lieutenant in the King's militia, and the druid who has joined our party, his best friend's mother was the lieutenant's lover.
And Jim, you like bringing up the idea of the master swordsman scenario. This is one that I've heard you use before, where it's like this person, an NPC for the father of this player, that NPC is master swordsman. Meanwhile, this other player needs to find one,
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And that's,
just happens to come across
Yeah.
and train with them.
that's the great thing about that triangle thing is then you've also got, you have a character that can do something interesting that you've got like a pre-built relationship to as well. So like if you just like find a master swordsman in town, they don't know you from Adam. They may not want to have anything to do with you, but if it's your uncle, that's a whole different matter. That then you can convince him to, like teach the barbarian to fight properly instead of just hollering and running at things with an axe. So yeah.
First of all, boring.
Which is
Second of all,
acceptable. It's acceptable.
But the issue that I have with the rule with this tip is like, okay, it doesn't have to be a major relationship, and the players don't have to have a direct tie. There's nothing wrong with strangers meeting and going on adventures.
True.
The game I'm playing now, we all literally just met on a dirt path, and we're from completely different parts of this continent. We've never even heard of each other's towns. Now, whether or not something pops up down the line where we have ties we didn't know about, we'll see. We only just hit level 3, so
Oh yeah.
we got plenty of ways to go.
Yeah, not being afraid.
But don't be afraid to play strangers.
and not being afraid to make that stuff emergent, like you said, that comes out through play is also, keep that in mind, that like anything where you say blah, 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 background, blah, 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 that doesn't stop at session 0. You can discover that or, build it as you go too. So
maybe this gets
I would
amended
argue
to...
it shouldn't all happen in session 0. You should give yourself time to like flesh out your character.
Character should definitely
understand
grow,
your
yeah.
motivations and things, and maybe you wouldn't. It's something that you wouldn't know right when you created the character. When all of a sudden, like 4 or 5 sessions in, you're like, I wonder like what their life back in their original town was like, and like the kind of people that they knew back there, and that gives you opportunities to create other plot hooks. You don't have to do it all at the beginning.
So maybe this gets amended to, instead of the phrase "when creating character backstories," it gets changed to something along more the lines of, as character backstories become apparent, maybe there's more ties to each other.
Yeah, as they develop. Yeah.
Number 45. Nominate a city or town as the PC's home base and let them return there regularly. This provides good opportunities for character development.
Home bases are home bases.
Good call.
Always I love nesting. I'm big about nesting. So like having a place that I can go in character or out of character, where it's like, this is my space with all of my little knickknacks and whatever, with all of the people that I know and like to hang out with. It isn't just a party that I'm traveling with. I love that.
Oh yeah, it's a good treasure room.
Treasure.
Where you put your the horn of the dragon that you guys killed. It's a good money sink where you can upgrade it over time.
It's so easy to just make a quest be about getting gold, and then what do you do with that gold? A lot of like the magic items and stuff you can't buy with gold. So like, what am I going to do with all this gold?
I'm
buying a new couch.
I think that comes down a little bit to 5e, where like it's not treasure focused as much as I think older systems were, where it's like, oh no, you're going on this quest to get this thing. I don't feel like is very popular in terms of 5e stories.
5e is more about the adventure than it is about the stuff you get. Yeah. I think.
Yeah, earlier versions were like, okay, how much gold is this worth?
Well, in the
you
earliest...
guys trade with money? I've been handing people like random knuckle bones and being like, a gift for you.
In the earliest versions of
Thank you.
D&D and in some of the current OSR stuff, gold was XP. That was how you leveled up. It was determined not by the encounters you beat, but like how much gold you brought back from going on the adventure.
You mean you had to buy power? What kind of fantasy world is this?
That just sounds like the real world. I hate
more
that.
Steps.
The one thing I want to add here is new DMs. If you give your players this, don't then look at that as something you can burn to the ground to get a cheap reaction out of them.
No, that's so shitty.
If you're going to do this, commit to giving it to them. Threaten it, have it go through trials, tribulations, all that kind of stuff, but don't just destroy it. Thinking that, well,
it can be on fire.
That will motivate
it cannot burn.
Yeah. I think you could treat it like the settlement system in Fallout, where it's like you build up your defenses.
Interrupted in the middle? Is that?
yeah. It's like, oh, all of a sudden a bird flies and goes, "Trouble in paradise!" And you're like, can you guys just restrain the dragon for 5 minutes? But no, I meant more along the lines of like, it's a place where you can go, you can keep all of your things. There's people that you know and interact with and things there. You build up your defenses, but every once in a while, you do have to come back and check on them to make sure everybody's got enough food, everybody's got a job, there's water, and to fight off raiders that are attacking your settlements.
Yeah, coming back to your home base and finding it.
But you never have to worry about the raiders destroying your settlement.
Yeah.
Just me and my shitty little video game.
Coming back to your base and finding it like ransacked and going on a side quest to avenge it and get your stuff back and get your dragon tooth back. That's one thing. That's totally fine. It's sometimes, don't make that every week. Unless that's your whole thing, where it's just like
Please
we're
don't
the
make that
players
every
who who have no defense and all we do is avenge the stuff that we brought. That could be its own thing, but that's more of a comedy game. But like
There's not a lot of money in revenge. Yeah.
Depending on how
Depending
much
on who
money the
stole
people
your
who
stuff.
are revenging
you can
against
you
have.
can definitely profit
Yeah.
off of this. If they stole something worth 1,000 gold, you come back with that thing plus 1,000 gold because you held them upside down and shook them.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they deserve it. Coming back and finding your place ransacked is that's a side quest that's acceptable. Coming back and finding your place burned to the ground and razed. I think that's what you're getting at here. Completely unacceptable. Like don't
like
give the players
all your favorite NPCs are all dead. That's like, yeah, no, don't do that.
Right.
Don't fridge their base is what I'm saying.
Yeah, like some level of
I
plot
think
armor
the
has to
only
apply
exception I could see to that is if it's just before the end of the campaign, right before you get to the final big bad evil guy, you come back victorious from your last battle, the town is burnt to the ground, and your final adversary has left a a glowing sigil in the middle of the remnants. That it's like
post-it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be like, hey, guess what? Fuck you guys, and also this is my address.
Mhm.
If you're going to do that, it has to be at the very end. You can't just, I don't know, you can't just ruin their life in the middle of the campaign and be like, well, we don't trust you now to not take any good thing that we get and rip the rug out from under us.
Exactly. Yeah. It's that you don't want them to be expecting that rug pull and not trust anything that you give them. That's just bad for the campaign.
Number 46. Occasionally give your players a magic item that is busted or out of charges. Repairing it becomes a fun side quest.
Yeah, it
for sure.
does.
Yeah, because you can stick it in that base for a little while, go on other quests, and come back with the components that you need to fix it.
This is also a cool way to give your players...
Or, hey, this is a funky stick that doesn't seem to do anything. You walk into the next shop, and the shopkeeper's like, what is that you have there?
It's also a cool way to give your players something that is way above their level. And it's just, it's not
something
dangerous
that they
yet.
can come into.
And then at a time that is level
Yeah,
appropriate, then they can fix it. This is another, if it's something that they can look forward to for a couple of levels, they can even, if it's let's say it's Wana True Polymorph or something like that, where it's then the wizard can kind of build his levels leading up to that around that build, if they choose. If you got a player who doesn't know what direction they want to go in, you can use this to kind of nudge
give
them
them
in
a
one direction.
goal.
The other thing that's cool about this is another one of those places where you can get kind of one of those 2-for-1 deals, where if you've got some kind of cool magic item that you need some kind of specialist to fix for you, you've put them on a quest to meet another cool NPC that has a guaranteed reward at the end of it. And so not only do you get this cool magic item, you now know somebody that can fix wands. And everything that comes with that.
Yeah, that can come in handy later.
Networking is very important, even in fantasy worlds.
Yep. Network
Unfortunately,
externalities.
I hate talking to strangers.
Number 47. Actively recruit PCs into the factions that are shaping your campaign world.
Hell yeah.
Interact with the world around
But to be
you,
recruited
please, for the
into
love
the
of God.
factions is a step
Oh,
more
yeah.
complicated, and I like it, especially if they get recruited into one and find out later that was the bad one.
There are some campaigns like Saltmarsh that rely for the story very heavily on the factions too. So to go into one of the factions helps build the story. And
Or Ravnica, that's an entire world built on factions.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Maintain the balance or help one of them become the powerhouse of that area. It gives you more dynamic control of your setting, I think.
Yeah. You can even easily be like the one shopkeep or barkeep who's being a total dick has one of the Rebel Alliance's insignias on behind the counter, and then that's a connection who's like, hey, your guy's a dick, I don't like you, And just that it can be as easy as that, where you have those connections that make the world a little bit more lived in and a little bit more dynamic.
Like, you're being a shitbag, and I see you're wearing a Boston Red Sox shirt. So now I have a really poor opinion of all Boston Red Sox fans.
You know what? Kind of exactly. Yeah.
I know what I said.
So one thing I want to point out here is that not necessarily every player group is going to be super into like being political or being part of a faction, in which case, you know, as a DM, you can kind of have this going on around behind the scenes, even if the players aren't super into like, we want to do a whole Game of Thrones and decide who's going to be the power in the city kind of thing. You can still keep track of their actions, you know, and even if there's only one or two players that are into it, you can use their interest in it to drive what's going on, the politics of your campaign, even if you're not like constantly running, masquerade balls where people are doing politicking and stuff like that, or, actively attacking other factions. It's like, this is cool to help you figure out what's going on in your campaign world, even if the players aren't super actively engaged with it.
Yeah, it just says actively recruit them. It does not say the players should actively join them. You can pester people all you want to become a Jehovah's Witness. It does not mean I'm gonna do it.
And I think,
they were actually outside of the Roman baths today, and I was like, please don't look at me in the eye.
I mean, and one of the other things you can do is you can Yojimbo it, right? And like join, like if both factions are annoying you, you can set them against each other. And that's a whole different kind of fun as well, rather than trying to get your guys on top. How can we figure out how to get them to like destroy each other so we can have some peace and quiet in this town?
Yeah. Let them fight. All right, number 48. Be a fan of your players. Celebrate their victories and commiserate with their failures.
Yeah, I think this just goes back to one of the previous tips where it's like, it is your job as a DM to make sure everyone at the table, including yourself, is having fun. And that is one of the easiest ways to do that, to celebrate a hard fight that was barely won, an NPC death that they just didn't get there in enough time to save. Like, doing those things as a group will help that make it feel like you are with the party and not against the party. And I think that's very important for
these are
a
equally
DM.
your wins and losses. It's not you, it's the story that you are interpreting for them. And when they win, you win.
There's a whole lot of Powered by the Apocalypse games, indie games, that literally have be a fan of the characters as like a rule for the game master that's like written into the game as one of your principles behind how you're supposed to run the game. And I do kind of like the idea better that you're a fan of the characters, because you may be friends with the players, you may not know the players at all, but if you're always a fan of the characters, your relationship to those players doesn't necessarily matter. It can, you can be as much of a fan of a character you meet for the very first time as you can for, the folks you've been playing with for 10 years. And that's, I think for new players, that's super helpful to say, I think your character is as cool as this other, whatever. In my game, you are Driz Duorden, and I think you're as cool as that character, and we're gonna, together create a story that we both enjoy that much. So,
and if you need, as the DM, another way to look at this, if you are crafting a story about these characters, why wouldn't you be excited that these characters in this story that you are crafting are victorious at what they've done, or like you need to feel some type of way about the narrative that you are crafting, and those characters are a big part of that narrative.
Yeah, and I think it's I really like here that it says commiserate with their failures, but it explicitly doesn't say like protect them from their failures or guard them from their failures or save them from their failures.
Oh, of
any
course
that
not.
kind of stuff. Yeah, because they're going to blow it sometimes, but like the fun of being a fan is that you're watching something somebody else has created and you're pulling for them and you want them to do well. But it's not interesting if all they're doing is winning all the time.
Sure.
So.
Oh, as a Mets fan,
I love that
completely
framing of
understand.
Yeah, you commiserate those failures, Gregory.
Yes, yep.
It also doesn't say
necessarily
don't
wanna see
razz them for your failures.
Losing all the time either. That's
If
but if
you
they lose
if you,
frequently,
if you
when they
nail
do win, it's that much sweeter.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
And also, I believe it is encouraged that like if you nail them with a trap, you can go ahead and razz them for their failures. You don't have to commiserate that.
And be like, oh, you really just stepped right on that tripwire. You didn't even roll for perception or
And-
anything about it. How could you be so
Yep, that's pretty much exactly what my
stupid?
DM said to me when my barbarian.
That is
walked
literally
right
me
into the
at
shark
me.
But it did lead to a scenario where I got to punch a shark in the face, and that was cool.
Sometimes you walk face first into a problem, and that's the best part of the
super
story
I
thus
was
far.
it was absolutely face first into that problem. Next one. We're almost there. Guys, we're almost there. This is number
We're almost to the
49 out of
end.
50.
I can taste the finish line.
Number 49. Most monsters should attempt to flee a battle when it becomes hopeless, which is a good way to end a dragging combat.
Yeah, I know we've brought it up before, but the monsters know what they're doing.
Incredible
has
books.
like a subset of tactics, and like when they would flee, and specifically like some monsters don't, but usually it is not a super high CR monster that will always fight to the death. Because usually when you get up in higher CRs, you have a higher intelligence score. So it has that, this is not going my way.
Yeah.
I'm a dip.
It doesn't even need to be a higher intelligence score. Like, if you have a group of goblins that are attacking you and their secret weapon is this bugbear that they've captured, if you kill the bugbear and they're like, that was our, like, last-ditch effort, they can all bounce. They can be like, we live to fight another day.
I'm out. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and on the other end of the spectrum, if you're like a 700-year-old dragon, and you like miscalculated, these little meat snacks, and they're actually hurting you, you're like, well, I'm not, my centuries of life are not going to end to these idiots.
Right.
I'll just come back later now that I know what they can do. So yeah, absolutely, for sure.
And intelligence-wise, there's a
the risk I took was calculated, but boy, am I bad at math.
intelligence-wise, there's a sweet spot of like who would stick around for the end of the battle. If they're too intelligent and they know they understand that they're going to lose and that they can regroup and try again. That's a higher intelligence. You go too low in intelligence, then you start acting on a pure instinct. Like an injured wolf is going to run back into the forest to lick its wounds, literally.
Yeah.
But
and it's also and the other thing to remember is that
go ahead.
The other thing to remember is that it's circumstantial. That group of goblins that you were talking about that has the captured bugbear, if they're like just a goblin tribe and they throw that bugbear and the bugbear gets killed and they're like, we're out. But if they serve the necromancer, who will make an example of any of them that ran from the fight, well, maybe you play dead, or it's just better to get run through quick by a sword than have him, whatever, make you into a zombie or something.
Or like with that wolf, if you back it into a corner and it has nowhere to go, it is going to try to scorched earth you. It's going to go, well, if I'm going down, I'm going to take at least a piece of you with me.
Mm-hmm.
But the tactics can also kind of tell the story of the environment to some extent too. That they're and this is exactly what all that monsters know what they're doing stuff gets into their mindset and why they're like, why are you fighting in the first place can help determine like how long are we going to,
because it's what my character would do.
Yeah, okay, all right.
I'm so sorry. I'll leave. I'll see myself out.
We got one more.
But those Monsters Know What They're Doing books are invaluable for new DMs, veteran DMs. Everybody needs them. I believe they are on Amazon, and if I can find them on there, I'll put affiliate links in the show notes because everybody needs a copy of those books.
Yeah, I mean, and for what it's worth, they're out there in the world. I literally bought mine off the shelf at Barnes & Noble.
Yep.
So it's not like they're like a super hyper
Oh, yeah.
specialized D&D thing. They're out there in the world. Yeah.
There's 2 of them for monsters and 1 for players that kind of teaches you how to how to fight as your class. I got all 3 of them.
I was going to say, are you telling me the players know what
No,
they're
that's why there's a
doing?
book. It is not called The Players Know What They're Doing. I promise you, it's not called that. It's called Live to Fight Another Day, something along those lines. I got all 3 of those books from my friendly local game store. Shout out to the Keep, and so check your local store too. But I'll put a link there too if your local store doesn't have them. Guys, number 50. We did it.
We did
We
it.
did it. We're about to do it. We're not done yet.
Let's
Hold
go
on.
back to number 1 and
Slow down.
do it
Slow the
again.
fuck down. We didn't even finish this yet, okay? Because we got this far yesterday, and the whole thing got corrupted on us. Yes, I was gonna try to not bring that up, but this whole thing got fucked up with this second time recording it. So
We got to 48 yesterday, and we were like, nothing's been recorded. This is bullshit. I was like, I'm going to bed.
Most of it was recorded, but just we lost enough to where it wasn't gonna work. It wasn't Greg's fault. It wasn't Greg's fault.
My fault.
Nope, it might not be, but I'm
Greg's
going to blame
problem,
you.
But it wasn't his fault.
Josie,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you said, fuck this, I'm going back in the pool, was what you said the other
Well,
day.
we're never gonna know because that whole
to be
recording
fair-
is gone. So I have no proof of what she said.
To be fair, I was going, every time there was a break in the action, I was like, I'm going to go
Hey, so
jump
it's
in the pool really quick
9,000
to cool down.
degrees.
It was so hot.
Well, no, it was 1,000 Celsius.
No, it was 9,000.
Oh, shoot. Sorry. Josie, can you hear the air conditioner? It's not coming through over the mic, is it? Is it okay?
I have
Or
a
is it-
processing disorder that is just, I thought that was noise happening in my head.
Here, I can turn mine on. It's super
I'm just
loud
going to
'cause it's
hold
right
my
next to the,
fancy little
Okay, well, my
fan
AC is
fan
off because I knew I was
and
recording
wave
today.
it
So
in
let's
my
wrap this thing
general
up so I can cool
direction.
back down. Number
All right.
50.
Yes.
Number 50.
Give your players the occasional bit of narrative control. For example, ask them to describe what their spell looks like or how they land the killing blow on a monster. Well, the killing
Ooh,
blow,
yeah,
this
I like
is
this
the
one.
classic, how do you want to do this? I mean, that's just a given at this point.
Yeah.
They should get their
What
fatality
is the point of
cutscenes.
playing this game? What is the point of playing this game if you don't get to describe some of the cool things that you do? Like, you roll a nat 20 or something on acrobatics and be like, okay, how do you do a triple front flip out of this airplane?
Pretty much just
tell
like
me,
that.
explain
I
it to
go out
me.
the airplane and then I flip 3 times. But
Even a little bit more mundane. I know, Jim, I think you've brought it up, maybe not on one of these, but in previous episodes, like, the bard is super attracted to this barkeep. You ask them, what do they look like that is so attracted to you?
Yeah. Exactly.
Whether or not they look like Oscar Isaac is depending on if Josie's on the table or not.
It's
I'm
it
so
depends
glad
on
I
whether or
already
not
had the
Oscar
fan
Isaac
out.
is still hot. I'm pretty sure he is somewhere, wherever
Yeah.
he is right now.
Forever.
Like air conditioning would not help if he were in the room.
No.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that first sentence should read, give your players as much narrative control as you possibly can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, like whenever you can.
Collaborative
Going back to
storytelling.
Mhm.
going back to tip number 41, that's one of the things you can offload onto your players is narrative control.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I do this in other
Absolutely.
games
And
now.
it will just make the game
I
better.
do this in non-roleplay games now.
Yeah. Mhm.
We were so the how do you want to do this when you strike the killing blow? That's like a given. That has become like mainstream pop culture, because of how huge Critical Role got. People know about, okay, how do you want to do this? But describing your spell is a cool one. When I get warlocks, I ask them, okay, they Eldritch Blast, cool. What color is your Eldritch Blast? What does it look like? Is it more tentacly? Is it more light? Like, what does it look like? Wizards, like when they're introducing their character, but okay, what's your spell book look like? Describe your spell book, and like
Mhm.
they have it in their head down to the color, what how tattered it is, and they know way more than I do what their spell book looks like. But we were doing this in other games. We were playing Secret Hitler, And anytime,
Oh my God.
and whether it was liberal or fascist, anytime any law got passed, so the first one that got passed was it was a liberal. I'm like, okay, what was the liberal policy you guys just passed? And they went they went from 0 to 10 real quick. They're like, mandatory abortions.
Yes, 100%. No more babies. Get rid of them.
And they had a lot more fun.
That's liberal all the way back around to fascist.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
that's maybe a little too far, but and it's just from that. And anytime any law got passed,
theory,
like, what law did you pass? And now they're like trying to pass more laws. And I suggest you take that to other games.
I like the other thing I really like to do is to take it to places where people don't think of that as being like game content creation.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of my favorite things to do that blows the minds of new players and people that have never experienced it before is I let you describe your misses, because that helps like get across the fact that you're competent adventurers. So like, it's a 17 to hit, you rolled a 14, and I say, what did the goblin do to keep you from taking their head off in that moment? And they can say, well, he got his shield up,
the right time.
He just ducked under my swing or something like that. And that kind of gets it to feel, also it's more like a back and forth. And there's nothing that helps more to mitigate that feeling of, I rolled, I missed, I whiffed, my turn meant nothing, right? I didn't get to say anything or describe anything. I always give them a little, because like that means nothing. That's pure narrative. Because we know that like it didn't change the game state really, right? Because nothing happened. So at least giving the player the opportunity to, just do a little bit of flavor text is like an act of generosity, that makes up for the fact that they just whiffed.
Oh, I have my monsters talk shit.
I hate the phrase "just flavor text." Somebody's got to write all of those books in Skyrim.
No, they don't.
Well, yeah.
Oh,
Somebody had to do it. All those notes, somebody had to come up with the text.
But like, if they can't do damage, they might as well talk a bit. So like, if they're swinging against an intelligent creature, especially if that creature has I can make a pretty serious creature be pretty funny. Just have them talk shit. And just let the players talk. Let the players talk shit back. Like let them just have it out.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, I felt the wind on that one." And they'll be like, "No, fuck." I felt my players screaming at me. Guys, we did it. We got there. It took us 4.5 months to get there, but we took our time. We stretched this as long as we could.
Reading comprehension is difficult.
No,
it really is.
I thought too much today. I need to
the link to this is again is in the show notes if you want to reference it again. Let us know if you agree or violently disagree with any of our takes on any of these. And if MT Black is listening, we would love your rebuttals to our rebuttals.
Honestly, though, I also want to know what's y'all's favorite tip. There's now 5 of these episodes. You have to have had one that you were like, that's the one. I love that one.
Once again, those are episodes 43, 48, 56, 61. And now, whichever this one is, because I lost track.
You'll find out.
Listen, if they're listening to this part, they already know what number it is. So, maybe they know more than I do. It's like reverse metagaming. If you're watching on YouTube or anywhere that you can leave comments, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you want to just reach out to us, shoot us an email, curmudgeonsanddragonspod@gmail.com, or go to curmudgeonsanddragons.com/contact, and get in touch with us. We want to know where your head's at. What are you thinking? What's going on? Like, what's your deal, man? How's your day doing? You can go ahead. You can email me. Let me know how your day is. And I'll respond.
And if there's a tip,
he'll also tell us about it, right, Jason?
I mean, what I want to know is
if it's cool enough.
Is there a tip 51 that absolutely should have been on the list but wasn't? Like, what is your opinion about that?
Or better yet, is there 7 or 8 of these that probably should have come off? And then there's a tip 4.
Well, okay.
Yeah. And then
no, we already discussed that part.
42 that that could have been on there.
Honestly, give us your DM tips.
And speaking of tips, our Buy Me a Coffee link is back up and running. If you go to curmudgeonsanddragons.com, right on the main page in the bottom left corner, there's a little yellow button with a little coffee on it. If you want to buy us a coffee, you can go to curmudgeonsanddragons.com/coffee. And if you want to just reach out to us, we want to know where your head's at. we are blessed to be editing the show ourselves, so it costs us really not much else other than a whole bunch of my time. So if you enjoy it,
and only Jason,
we don't do ads on the show. We don't seek sponsorships. We're not doing anything like that. So we don't have a Patreon just yet. So if you like it and you want to support us, curmudgeondragons.com and just click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, and we super appreciate it. I think that's all we got.
Buy us a coffee for tickets to the Toe Show.
or a tea, because I don't like coffee too much.
Yeah, I would love.
You say that as if you're seeing a dime of it. No, no, I'll share.
Appreciated.
If you put that money towards Old Bay Goldfish, that is good enough for me.
Send me a case of that.
Guys, thanks so much for listening.
Send me too.
I'm at Jason Portizo on Instagram. Josie is at Goblin Scratches on Twitter. Jim is at Jim Likes Games on all sorts of things. And Greg is also on the podcast. That's all I got.
But he's not in your
But he's
house.
finally out of
Not
my
anymore.
fucking house. Guys, everybody get out of my house. Thanks so much for listening. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Curmudgeons and Dragons. Please share this with your favorite adventurers. Leave a review on Apple and follow us on social media. All links can be found at curmudgeonsanddragons.com. Practice safe adventuring, my friends.
This has been a JTP Audio podcast. Thanks for listening.